Okay, so recently I've been exposed to a lot of drama regarding English localization of Japanese properties. I guess as part of this current culture war thing that you guys in America have to deal with, there have been a lot of complaints about more left-leaning people in the localization industry deliberately changing aspects of the original stories to be more appealing to modern audiences and less offensive to the general public. And recently there's also been instances of Japanese companies beginning to use AI as a way to increase the speed at which localizations can be created without the direct input of the aforementioned woke localizers. Typically, I don't get very active in this type of discourse, but as a bilingual guy from Germany who really likes Japanese media, I feel like I'm actually uniquely qualified to give a different perspective on this topic as sort of an outsider. First off, for those of you complaining that this only started happening recently with the current cultural thing that you guys have going on, while the other side claims that bad localizations that change the original meaning of the story only make up around 5% of all localizations, if that. Yeah, let's debunk that really quickly. I don't know why anybody is shocked by the revelation that you guys have to deal with unfaithful and terrible localizations. You do know that your English localizations have been absolute garbage for several decades by now, right? I'm gonna give you an example. You don't really need a lot of context for this scene from Digimon Adventure other than this is the introduction of the big bad evil guy of the series. Hey, they even added English subtitles for your viewing convenience, so here's the Japanese original.
そうだ、我が無念を晴らさずに置くものか。無念？誰だ？
これが火の壁の向こうからやってきたデジモン。
なんだこいつ。
私を醜いと思うか。そうだろう。お前たちはそう思うだろう。所詮我々は進化の過程でその行く手を阻まれたもの。
進化の過程で。
デジモンたちは長い年月の中で進化を繰り返してきた。その中で消えていったものがいるのを知っているか。
進化の過程の中では消えていく種があるのも仕方がないことです。やはり環境に順応できずに。
黙れ！仕方がない。その一言で全てを済ませる気か。
何が言いたい？
貴様は我々を生き残る資格のないものだと決めつけるのか。
いえ、僕は決して。
そう、我々はデジモンの進化の過程で消えていった種のその悲しい恨めしい無念の思いの蓄積だ。
消えていったデジモンたちの闇の心の集合体。
我々が何をしたというのだ。なぜお前たちが笑い我々が泣かなければならないのだ。いや、見
たく
ない。我々にだって涙もあれば感情もあるのだ。何の権利があって我々の命はこの世界から葬り去られていかなければならない。生きたかった。生き残って友情を正義を愛を語りこの体を世界のために役立てたかったのだ。我々はこの世界にとって必要がないというのか無意味だというのか。この世界は我々が支配する。我々の場所を確立するのだ。邪魔する者には全て消えてもらう。光あるところに呪いあれ。
Can't you just tell the ominous, unknowable nature of this villain from the way the score frames this encounter? Can't you just feel how genuinely unsettled these poor kids are as Pokemon cries out in desperation about the origin story of being the leftovers of the evolutionary process, a hive-minded organism comprised of all the agony and sorrow that has gathered over millennia of evolution from all the species that were driven to extinction, lashing out against creation itself out of jealousy and spite over the fact that this creature had to be lonely and miserable for its entire existence. This was intended for younger audiences, mind you, so how do you think this scene was adapted for the English-speaking Western market?
I am the ultimate evil, complete with hot and cold running water. Digimon have been digivolving for many years now, over and over again. But there were some who weren't up to the challenge and simply disappeared.
That makes sense. Even on Earth, some species became extinct during the process of evolution. In fact, the Tasmanian tiger wolf was one of those—
Silence! Who's the one telling this story anyway, me or you?
All right, go ahead.
Why do all of you get the pizza while I get the crust?
I can't take all these metaphors!
Boy, this guy really holds a grudge.
I will rule the world and plunge it into darkness so that I don't have to be alone anymore in my misery. Wait a minute, what am I laughing at? I'm supposed to be depressed.
And now, here's the perspective of people working in that industry.
So things like we try to kind of work around things that might be a little sexist, for example, like in Japanese humor.
Activate fire.
And with those things, we like to try to make it more culturally appropriate for our players.
And that doesn't mean it has to be made less funny either.
No, not at all. We can work in something even better sometimes.
Let's go.
Do you really mean to tell me that this scene accurately conveys the original intent on how this encounter was framed? Can you really say with absolute confidence that the people who worked on this were doing their very, very best to keep the tone that was established in the Japanese original? Are you really so delusional that you think this type of writing is improving the original? Does anybody genuinely think this scene is actually funny? Or is secondhand embarrassment the only reason why there are any laughs at all? And if terrible localizations really only account for less than 5% of all the localization work done by this industry, then how come that I, as a complete outsider to your culture, can give you a decades-old example of how shoddy the very foundation of the American localization industry has been ever since the turn of the millennia? Making something subpar that doesn't generate excitement in your primary consumer base, while only marginally appealing to the people who don't use the stuff you're making, will in the long run only serve to push your industry into utter irrelevance. And this is where my unique qualification on this topic comes in. You see, I'm from Germany, and this is the version of Digimon Adventure that I grew up with. I've added subtitles on my own, so please have fun with the localization that I got to enjoy during my childhood.
Findet ihr mich hässlich? Na sagt schon. Natürlich findet ihr mich hässlich, ich wusste es. Wir sind die, die im Verlauf der Digitation daran gehindert wurden, weiterzuleben.
Verlauf der Digitation?
Du hast richtig gehört, die Digimon sind im Laufe der Zeit digitiert. Wusstet ihr, dass manche Digimon deswegen aussterben mussten?
Es ist doch unvermeidlich, dass bestimmte Gattungen aussterben, wenn sie sich nicht an eine neue Umgebung anpassen können.
Du hältst dein Maul! Unvermeidlich? Und du meinst, das rechtfertigt alles?
Inwiefern rechtfertigt?
Du denkst also, wir sind nicht gut genug zum Weiterleben. Ist es das, was du sagen willst?
Nein, so meinte ich das wirklich nicht.
So, nun, ich will es dir glauben. Wir sind der traurige Rest all der Arten, die im Laufe der Digitation die Digi-Welt verlassen mussten. Was haben wir denn falsch gemacht? Bitte sagt es uns! Warum dürft ihr euch freuen und lachen? Und warum müssen wir die ganze Zeit weinen? Wir haben auch Gefühle. Wieso hat man uns gezwungen, von dieser Welt zu verschwinden? Wir wollten Leben und Freundschaft, Gerechtigkeit und Liebe erfahren. Wir wollten nützlich sein für diese Welt. Aber niemand hat uns ernst genommen. Niemand hat uns zugehört. Wir waren ganz auf uns allein gestellt. Wollt ihr etwas sagen, dass wir auf dieser Welt nicht gebraucht wurden? Dass wir einfach nutzlos waren? Dass man sich um uns nicht zu kümmern brauchte?
There's a very good argument that it is pretty much impossible to translate something word for word from one language to another while keeping the original meaning intact. Yes, that is true, but as the version that I grew up with proves, at least to me, even if it isn't worded exactly the same, it is still possible to accurately convey the same tone, the same energy, the same vibe that the original version intends to get across. In case you're wondering why I felt the need to add my perspective to this discussion, well, I've in a sense already experienced the death of this industry once before, and I wouldn't want for other people to have to go through that same pain, if at all possible. Here's to hoping that for 2024 and onward, we get to enjoy the things we love as they were originally created. Happy New Year, everybody, and take care.